It was archive day at the Cathar Military Academy, a day usually met with groans from the assembled cadets of a dozen starfaring species. They studied history not for its own sake, but for tactical advantage. History was a data set of enemy mistakes, but this time the subject was different. The subject was humanity. The Grand Lecture Hall, a sweeping amphitheater of polished chrome and holographic emitters, was silent. The air, usually humming with the low-frequency chatter of the thrax and the faint, citrus scent of the Pelian delegates, was still. On the main viewer, a piece of ancient footage flickered. It wasn't a battle. It wasn't a general giving a speech. It was a simple interview, conducted for a historical preservation project in the late 21st century, just before humanity achieved unified interstellar travel. The subject was a woman, unremarkable by galactic standards. Her hair was graying, her face a map of fine lines. She sat in a simple chair against a plain backdrop. She was a refugee, a survivor of one of humanity's last and most brutal territorial conflicts, the Eastern European Consolidation War. A young Zalosian cadet, his carapace shimmering with earnest curiosity, was given the honor of asking the first question via the archival link. His voice, translated into the human's native tongue, was precise, academic. "Archivist Subject 734, he began, foregoing her name for protocol. "Your file indicates you were a civilian non-combatant displaced by the siege of Kiev. For the benefit of our study on primitive warfare, can you confirm? Have you seen war?" The hall leaned in. This was the data point they wanted, a confirmation, a description of horror, a tearful recounting of loss that they could log, categorize, and file under human psychological frailties. The old woman on the screen didn't answer immediately. She held the cadet's gaze through the lens of a long-dead camera. A deep, profound stillness settled over her. Then the corner of her mouth twitched. It started small, a flicker of muscle, before it slowly, deliberately bloomed into a full, unabashed smile. It was not a happy smile. It was not a sad smile. It was a smile of ancient, terrifying knowledge. It was the smile of a god looking at a child's drawing of the universe. It was a smile that held collapsing cities, the silence of frozen fields, the taste of desperation, and the defiant, insane humor of surviving the absolute end of the world. It was a smile that said everything words could not. In the back of the lecture hall, the instructors, a battle-hardened Gornak and a stoic luminary with 400 years of service, shared a look of pure alarm. They didn't speak. The Gornak's hand moved to the control panel, his movements surgically precise. And as the woman's knowing, devastating smile filled the screen, an expression that promised to unpack a truth far more dangerous than any weapon schematic, the instructors quietly turned off the footage. The cadets were left in stunned silence, staring at a blank screen. They had come seeking data on an enemy's weakness. Instead, they had stared into the abyss, and the abyss had smiled back, holding a secret they were not yet ready to comprehend. Today, we are going to turn that footage back on. We are going to dissect that smile. Because within that single, silent gesture lies the most brutal and empowering truth about the nature of strength, the reality of struggle, and the unshakable power that is forged not in peace, but in the heart of the fire. What the instructors tried to hide is what you need to learn. The smile was a lesson, and class is now in session. The first truth hidden in that smile, the first layer the instructors feared the cadets would never grasp, is a matter of pure, terrifying scale. When the Zalosian cadet asked, "Have you seen war?" he was thinking of an event, a definable conflict with a start and an end date. The Cathar archives had records of the great unification of Xylos, a single generation-long war that forged their world state and was spoken of in hushed, reverent tones. To them, war was a monumental, singular cataclysm. The human woman's smile was the universe's cruelest punchline. She wasn't recalling a war. She was summoning the memory of all of them. Her smile was the answer from a species whose entire history is not punctuated by war, but is written in it. Imagine an alien historian assigned to the Human War Cataloging Project. He arrives eager, his multi-lensed eyes ready to process the data. He starts with the big ones, the World Wars, the Napoleonic Wars, the conquests of Khan and Alexander. He diligently logs the millions dead, the empires risen and fallen. He thinks he's getting a handle on it. Then his aides start bringing him more files. The 100 Years' War, the 30 Years' War, the Punic Wars, the Peloponnesian War, the War of the Roses, the Wars of Scottish independence. His filing system, designed for clean, sequential conflicts, begins to break down. He's confused. Some of these wars overlap. Some are fought for reasons that seem, to his logical mind, insane. A dispute over a line on a map, the honor of a monarch. A disagreement over which version of the same god was the correct one. Then they bring him the next level. The civil wars, the revolutions, the insurrections, the American Civil War, the Russian Civil War, the Spanish Civil War, the Chinese Civil War. He learns that humans don't just fight outsiders, they fight themselves with a unique and passionate ferocity. They will burn their own house down to prove a point to the person living in the other room. The historian's claws begin to tremble as he enters the data. And just when he thinks he's reached the bottom, they bring him the crates. The endless, dusty crates of humanity's forgotten conflicts. The tribal wars of the prehistoric plains, the city-state skirmishes of the Bronze Age, the brutal Viking raids, the silent, vicious espionage of the Cold War, the corporate resource wars fought with mercenaries on forgotten continents, the drug wars, the gang wars fought with crude firearms in concrete jungles. The historian finally collapses. His mind, accustomed to galactic eons of relative peace, cannot process the sheer volume. It's not a list, it's a flood. It is the background radiation of the human condition. The woman's smile understood this. The cadet was asking if she'd seen a storm. She was smiling because her entire species was born in a hurricane that has never ended. This is the brutal truth you must internalize. Your own struggles, your own wars. The battles against debt, against depression, against failure, against your own bad habits. They feel overwhelming. You feel they are unique, isolated events. But you are a human. You carry the genetic and psychic legacy of a species that has survived an unending chain of conflict. The resilience of 1,000 generations of survivors is coded into your DNA. When you face a setback, you are not the first of your line to do so. When you feel fear, you are tapping into an ancestral memory of facing down charging mammoths and enemy legions. When you feel like you can't go on, you are forgetting that you are the descendant of people who crossed frozen oceans in wooden boats, who rebuilt cities from ash, who farmed barren land and stared into the face of famine and did not blink. The instructors turned off the footage because they teach their cadets to analyze a single, definable threat. The smile revealed that with humanity, the threat isn't an event, it's a state of being. And what they see as a threat is the very source of our unbreakable strength. Stop seeing your struggles as isolated disasters. See them for what they are, the next chapter in a very, very long book of survival. You come from a long line of people who smiled in the face of the apocalypse. Act like it. The second truth, the one that goes deeper than history and into the soul, is the psychology of that smile. It wasn't the smile of someone who enjoyed war. It was the smile of someone who had ceased to fight it. not the external war, but the internal one. It was the smile of radical acceptance. Galactic doctrine, especially Cathar military philosophy, is built on control. Control the environment, control the enemy, control the self. Emotions are variables to be suppressed. Fear is a malfunction. Grief is inefficient. The goal is to return to a state of neutral, logical homeostasis as quickly as possible. To a Cathar, a traumatic memory is a virus to be quarantined and deleted. The human woman's smile was a declaration that for humans, the virus is the cure. She wasn't suppressing the memory. She wasn't quarantining the trauma. She was living with it. She had invited it into her house, offered it a chair, and learned to listen to its stories. Her smile was a sign of integration, not eradication. In Stoic philosophy, there's a concept called amor fati, a love of one's fate. It doesn't mean you desire tragedy. It means you accept everything that happens in your life, the good and the bad, as essential fuel for who you are. You don't just tolerate the darkness. You embrace it as the thing that gives the light its meaning. Consider the story of a human ex-soldier, a veteran of the Mars colonial wars who retires to a pristine garden world called Xylia. Xylia is perfect. The weather is a constant, pleasant 72 degrees. The gentle breezes carry the scent of blossoms. The Xylians, a peaceful, herbivorous species, live in a state of tranquil harmony. The human should be in paradise. But he's miserable. The peace is unnerving. The silence is too loud. He finds himself pacing at night, agitated, unable to sleep. The Xylians treat him with kindness, but their eyes hold a placid pity he can't stand. They see him as broken, a damaged relic of a violent past. Then the cataclysm comes. A rogue asteroid swarm shifts its trajectory, and Xylia is battered by meteor showers for 3 straight weeks. The perfect sky turns to fire and smoke. The gentle breezes become howling gales. The Xylians panic, their harmony shattered. Their society, which has never known true crisis, grinds to a halt. But the human feels alive for the first time in years. The roar of the impacts is a familiar symphony. The chaos is a language he understands. He's not happy, not joyful, but he is centered. He immediately begins organizing the panicked Xylians. He sets up shelters, triages the injured, rations the food supplies, and establishes watches. In the heart of the chaos that is destroying their paradise, he creates order. He moves with a purpose and clarity that feels like coming home. When the relief fleets finally arrive, they find the Xylian society in tatters, but its people are largely safe, huddled in the shelters the human organized. They find the human sitting on a blasted stump, watching the burning sky, and on his face is a faint, weary smile. It's the exact same smile the woman in the footage wore. It's the smile that says, "You fear this chaos, this struggle, but I was born in it. It's the friction that makes me sharp, the pressure that makes me strong." The instructors turned off the footage because the smile taught a forbidden lesson. That true strength isn't the absence of scars, but the mastery of them. They teach their cadets to be flawless weapons. The smile taught that a weapon that has never been used, never been damaged and repaired, is just a piece of metal. A human who has suffered and integrated that suffering is a blade that has been forged, quenched, and sharpened. You must apply this to your own life. You are trying to erase your failures. You are trying to forget your heartbreaks. You are trying to pretend your moments of weakness never happened. You are trying to be a perfect, unblemished Cathar cadet, and it is making you fragile. Stop fighting your past. Stop trying to amputate the parts of you that have been through the fire. That pain is your inheritance. That failure is your instructor. That heartbreak is the forge that tempered your heart. Look at your scars, not with shame, but with the grim acceptance of a veteran. They are the proof that you fought and you survived. They are your credentials. Embrace your fate, all of it. The smile of the survivor is not about forgetting the darkness. It's about recognizing it as the source of your light. The third brutal truth is perhaps the most difficult for a peaceful, advanced civilization to accept. It's the one that borders on galactic heresy. The instructors shut down the footage because the smile contained a dark and terrible secret about human progress. For all its horror, war has been our species' most powerful engine of creation. The smile was an acknowledgement of a profound and disturbing paradox. Humanity's greatest leaps forward are often born from its most desperate attempts at self-destruction. In the unified galactic community, progress is linear and logical. A need is identified: faster travel, better medicine, more efficient energy, and their greatest minds collaborate in pristine laboratories to achieve it. Innovation is a product of peace and cooperation. It's a clean, sterile process. The woman's smile whispered a different truth, a messier truth, a truth covered in mud and blood. It said, "You build things to live better. We build our best things so we don't die tomorrow." Think of a young Pelian engineer, a prodigy in energy systems, studying human history. He is examining the schematics for a pressurized water reactor, a primitive but ingenious fission device from the 20th century. He marvels at the speed of its development, the incredible intellectual breakthroughs that occurred in less than a decade. He presents his findings to his professor, praising the human spirit of discovery. His professor, a grizzled historian, pulls up a corresponding file. It's not a blueprint. It's a black and white photograph of a mushroom cloud. He explains to the student, "They did not build this to power their cities. They built it to erase them." The student is horrified. He learns about the Manhattan Project, a frantic race driven by existential fear. The greatest minds of a generation, sequestered in a secret city, working feverishly, not for the betterment of mankind, but to create a weapon of unimaginable horror before their enemy could do the same. Nuclear power, the energy source he was admiring, was an afterthought, a byproduct of the apocalypse. His horror deepens as he continues his research. The jet engine, perfected to gain air superiority, to drop bombs faster and from higher up. The internet, a decentralized communication network designed to withstand a nuclear attack and ensure a retaliatory strike. The fundamentals of modern rocketry that led to space travel, developed by a nation trying to build missiles that could cross an ocean and deliver annihilation. Emergency medicine, blood transfusions, surgical triage, penicillin production. All were hyper-accelerated by the urgent need to patch up soldiers and send them back to the front lines. The Pelian student suffers from a profound cognitive dissonance. How can a species create such wonders from such wickedness? How can the desire to kill be so intimately intertwined with the genius to create? The woman in the footage knew this. Her smile was the grim awareness that the very medical technology that might have saved her family was likely perfected in a previous war. The transport that evacuated her was the descendant of a military vehicle. The synthetic nutrient paste she ate in the refugee camp was the product of research into long-duration soldier rations. Her smile said, "You see progress as a beautiful, straight line. We see it as a desperate scramble out of a pit we dug for ourselves. Our greatest flaw, our tribalism, our aggression, is inseparable from our greatest strength, our relentless, panicked ingenuity." The Cathar instructors could not allow this lesson to be taught. It undermines the very foundation of their civilized, peaceful approach to advancement. The idea that a species could be so flawed, so self-destructive, and yet so brilliantly innovative is a paradox that could break a cadet's mind. It suggests that the primitive, humans might just out-innovate them, not through cooperation, but through the sheer, frantic pressure of their own internal conflicts. What does this mean for you? You are waiting for the perfect conditions to start. You're waiting for peace, for stability, for everything to be just right before you build your business, write your book, or get in shape. You are waiting for a Pelian laboratory. You need to understand that you live in a human world. Your greatest breakthroughs will not come from peace. They will come from pressure. They will come from necessity. They will come from the desperation of I have to make this work or I will fail. That anxiety you feel, that's the fuel. That deadline you're dreading, that's the launch clock. That rival who's outperforming you, that's the enemy driving you to invent a better weapon. Stop waiting for the war to be over to start building. The war is the building process. The struggle is the crucible of creation. The smile of the inventor and the smile of the survivor are one and the same. They are the smile of someone who looks at the abyss and says, "What can I build with this darkness?" The fourth truth is the one that truly enters the realm of the alien, the incomprehensible. It's the reason the Gornak instructor, a being who had personally pacified 3 rebellious systems, felt a chill run down his armored spine. The smile held a concept that most logical, self-preserving species simply cannot compute: the human romanticization of a good death. To almost every other species in the galaxy, war is a matter of brutal mathematics. You risk assets to achieve an objective. The loss of a soldier is a debit in the ledger. Survival is the prime directive. Retreat is a valid and often superior tactical choice. An individual's life is the highest value because a dead soldier cannot fight tomorrow. The woman's smile, however, was tinged with the memory of something else entirely. It held the ghosts of men and women who didn't just die, but who chose to die, who walked willingly into certain annihilation not for logic, but for an idea, for honor, for love, for the man standing next to them. An instructor at the academy might show footage of the Battle of Thermopylae. The Cathar cadet analyzes it thusly: a strategic failure. 300 Spartans and their allies positioned themselves in a bottleneck, a valid defensive maneuver. However, upon being outflanked, the logical course of action was immediate retreat to preserve their elite fighting force. Their decision to stay and fight to the last man was an irrational waste of valuable military assets. The human woman's smile is the rebuttal. It says, "You see a waste of assets. We built an entire culture on the story of those 300 men." Her smile remembered the firebombed pilot steering his crippled plane into an enemy warship. It remembered the soldier throwing himself on a grenade to save his squad. It remembered the firefighter running into the collapsing tower. It remembered the mother standing down a tank to protect her child. These are not acts of logic. They are acts of transcendence. They are moments when the human animal defies its own programming for survival in the name of something it deems higher. An ideal, a flag, a brother, a future they will never see. Imagine a luminary, a being of pure energy that has existed for millennia, trying to parse the human concept of glory. It sifts through human literature, poetry, and song. It finds thousands of odes to dying in battle. Dulce et decorum est pro patria mori. It is sweet and fitting to die for one's country. The luminary's consciousness nearly short-circuits. Sweet, fitting, death is the cessation of existence. It is a state of maximum entropy. There is no sweetness in it. There is no logic. It studies the Japanese samurai and their concept of bushido, where a beautiful death could be the goal of a lifetime. It analyzes the Viking belief in Valhalla, where dying with a sword in hand was the only way to earn a glorious afterlife. It reads the letters of young men from 100 different nations, all marching off to their deaths in the mud of Flanders, writing home with a terrifying, earnest conviction that their sacrifice has meaning. The luminary concludes that humanity suffers from a species-wide psychosis. They are in love with their own destruction. But the woman's smile offers a different interpretation. It's not a love of destruction. It is the ultimate expression of value. It's a declaration that there are things in the universe more important than one's own heartbeat. It's the ability to find meaning in the ultimate sacrifice. And a species that is willing to die for an idea is infinitely more dangerous and unpredictable than a species that is only willing to kill for resources. The instructors turned off the footage because this concept is the ultimate tactical nightmare. How do you threaten a people who romanticize death? How do you terrorize a species that turns its greatest tragedies into its most inspiring legends? How do you defeat an enemy who might not even see dying as a loss? You can't. This is the fire you must bring to your own life. You are so afraid of failure. You are so terrified of risk. You are so obsessed with preserving your comfort, your ego, your status quo. You are operating like a Cathar cadet, trying to avoid any possible debit in your life's ledger. You need to find your hill to die on. I don't mean this literally. I mean you need to find a purpose, a principle, a mission that is more important than your own comfort. A goal so profound that the fear of failing to pursue it is greater than the fear of the sacrifices required to achieve it. You must be willing to let your old self die to let the new one be born. You must be willing to sacrifice your ego, your free time, your comfort, your fear of being judged. Until you find something you are willing to lose everything for, you will never gain anything of value. The smile on that woman's face was the smile of someone who had seen people give everything for something they believed in. And that is a power that can shake the stars. Find your purpose, and then be willing to burn for it. The fifth and final truth, the one that ties all the others together, is why the instructors not only turned off the footage, but likely recommended it be classified at the highest level. It's because the smile wasn't just about the past. It was a statement about the present and a terrifying promise about the future. The smile was the ultimate reveal of humanity's unseen strength and its hidden power. The cadet asked, "Have you seen war?" He was asking about an external event. The smile answered from an internal reality. It said, "Seen it. Child, I am made of it." Every other species in that academy viewed their history as a static record. The Gornak instructor was proud of his battle record, but it was a collection of events that happened to him. He logged them, learned from them, and moved on. His past was a library he could visit. The woman's smile revealed that for humans, the past is not a library. It is a living, breathing part of the nervous system. It is the firmware of the soul. The trauma, the resilience, the brutality, the ingenuity, the sacrifice, it's not just stored as memory. It is passed down. It is inherited. It is carried in the stories told to children, in the iron in the blood, in the reflexive flinch at a loud noise, in the unshakable, often unconscious, confidence of a species that has already survived its own repeated attempts to annihilate itself. Consider this. A standard galactic psychological evaluation of a human subject would be a nightmare of contradictions. High baseline anxiety, yet remarkable performance under extreme stress. A tendency toward tribal in-groups, yet capable of profound, species-wide altruism in a crisis. Prone to illogical emotional responses, yet capable of cold, ruthless, long-term strategic thinking. A history of being a Class 4 Death World predator, yet capable of creating art and poetry of sublime, heartbreaking beauty. To a galactic psychologist, the human psyche is a mess of broken, conflicting code. The woman's smile is the key to the encryption. It's the Rosetta Stone. It says that the broken parts are the source of the strength. The anxiety is the early warning system, honed by millennia of being both predator and prey. The tribalism is the root of the loyalty that makes a soldier throw himself on a grenade. The emotional responses are the fuel for the irrational acts of creative genius and heroic sacrifice. The instructors saw this. They saw a species that wasn't strong in spite of its violent past, but was strong because of it. Humanity hadn't just survived its wars, it had been terraformed by them. Every conflict, from a schoolyard fight to a world war, was a training simulation. Every heartbreak was a lesson in emotional resilience. Every failure was a stress test on the system. The cadets saw a frail old woman. The instructors, for a fleeting, terrifying moment, saw the embodiment of a billion struggles. They saw a being whose personal history was irrelevant because she was a conduit for the entire, bloody, glorious history of her people. The question, "Have you seen war?" was fundamentally flawed. It was like asking the ocean if it had ever seen water. This is the final, ultimate truth for you. You look in the mirror and you see your flaws. You see your weaknesses. You see the anxiety, the fear, the past failures, the things you think are holding you back. You see yourself as a flawed, broken individual. You are asking the wrong question. You are the current, living result of an unbroken chain of survival stretching back to the dawn of life. Every single one of your ancestors, every single one, survived long enough to pass on the gift of life. They survived ice ages, famines, plagues, predators, and wars. They survived their own mistakes and the malice of others. They survived childbirth, heartbreak, and despair. All of their strength, all of their resilience, all of their desperate, clawing will to live is in you. It is your inheritance. The weaknesses you see in yourself, your anxiety, your anger, your sorrow, are not bugs in your system. They are the battle-tested tools of your ancestors. Your anxiety is their vigilance. Your anger is their fighting spirit. Your sorrow is their capacity for love and loss, the very thing that makes life worth fighting for. The instructors turned off the footage to protect their cadets from an existential shock. The shock of realizing that the quiet, unassuming species they were studying as a historical curiosity was, in fact, the most battle-hardened entity in the known galaxy. Not because of their technology or their biology, but because of their spirit. A spirit forged, tempered, and sharpened in the unending furnace of their own history. So now the lesson is over, and the final command is this. Go look in the mirror. Look past the surface, past the self-doubt, past the story you tell yourself about your own limitations. Look into your own eyes and understand what you are seeing. You are a survivor. You are the result of a million-year war for existence. The struggles you face today are just the latest battle, and you were born for it. All that history, all that strength, all that fire is waiting within you. Stop hiding from it. Stop being ashamed of it. Embrace it, accept it, integrate it. Then smile. Smile like the woman in the footage. A quiet, knowing smile. A smile that acknowledges the darkness you've seen, both in the world and in yourself, and is not afraid. A smile that holds all your scars, all your failures, and all your victories. Smile and let the universe wonder what you know. Let it be alarmed by the depth of your strength. The footage has been turned back on. Your life is the main event. What you do next is up to you.